Hi everybody, my name is Dipesh and today we're going to learn how to write back to SQL Server using Power Apps. So we are going to cover the following topics: brief introduction to the problem which we are going to solve today, adding Power Apps in Power BI, configuring Power Apps, common issues faced and work around to solve them, demo and testing. Some of the prerequisites for today's session: you should have Power Apps access, right access to SQL Server database table and basic understanding of SQL, and also a table with an ID column with auto increment. So I have the diagram here. So you can see we have the SQL Server database with write access, and the data is fed into Power BI, and then using Power Apps, we write back it to the SQL Server database or table. And then I have just pasted the syntax here, which we'll be using in our exercise today to create a table and updating the table with some records. Having said that, now let's quickly head to Power BI. Here is the PBX file, which we'll be using in this demo. And as you can see here, I've imported the data from the SQL Server, and the data looks pretty straightforward. We have 4 columns: order ID, order value, status, and comments. So now the problem statement here is the user wants to update the comments for these order IDs. Say, for example, if you notice here, order 007, the status shows as failed. So now the end users, what they will do is they will investigate what was the reason for the failure, and they want to update the comments here. So this is the main problem statement. And how do we do that? Using the Power Apps. So as I stated earlier, there are like certain prerequisites to do this activity or exercise. The first thing is you need to have right access to it, the table or database. And then that particular table should have a column called ID with an auto increment. And if you notice here, we have order ID. This is in text format, and this is not what we want. We need to have a auto increment identity column. So if I try to update this particular field using Power App, I don't get an option to edit. We'll check this in the later section of this exercise or this demo. So now what I'll do is, as a next step, I'll simply click on the Power Apps here, and then let me bring it to the right. Okay, so I have this Power Apps here. Now I will drag and drop one of the fields. So I will be using the order ID as a reference to update my comments here. So I'll allow the users to update the comments. So what I need is I'll bring the order ID to the Power Apps. So just give it a couple of seconds. Okay, so now I get an option saying, it says, okay, choose an existing app or create a new one. So what I'll do is I'll just click on create new. And then here, click OK, and this will open up a new browser. As you open the browser, this will be the default view. So for now, what you can do is skip. To input the data into SQL Server or write back to SQL Server, first thing is we need to create a form. I'll insert a new screen here, and then I'll select the form. Click OK. As you can see here, we have a form. To write back the data to the SQL Server, we need to add the data connection. So what I'm going to do is click on this icon here, that is data tab, and then here I will select add data. The data source is SQL Server. I will select SQL Server, and then I need to add a new connection. Click on add a connection. So here I need to select the authentication type. So I will be using SQL Server authentication, and I have already configured the gateway. So I'll be selecting connect using on-premises data gateway. So here I will input the server name, SQL database name, username, password, and the gateway which I'm going to use here. Once you input these details, click on OK or Connect. Once you click on Connect, it will show you an option to choose a table. In my case, this is the table order details. So I'll select this table order details and then click on Connect. So once you select the table which you just selected appears in the Data tab here. So now if I click on the tree view, you should be able to see this window, that is screen 2. So when I click on the edit form, I should be able to see the data source. If it's showing as none, just use the drop down and select the data source which you just added to the Power App. And then here fields, when you click on this edit fields, you should be able to see an option to add field. So the comments is the field which we want to add. So I just already clicked here. If you want to bring in other fields, example order ID, so you can just click on order ID and then add. So, and if you notice here, for the comments, I don't have an option to select edit because if you remember, I said there are like two prerequisites. One is you should have right access to the table or database. And the second thing is there should be an ID field in the database. And this particular table, we don't have any ID field. And that's where we need to create one more table with the ID field. So I'll show you how to create that table. Now let's head to SQL Studio. Here is the management studio and I'm going to execute this code. So basically I'll be creating one more table called as order details comments with ID field along with other fields what I need, that is order ID and along with the comments. So we will use this table to join with the other table, that is order details, using the order ID key, and then we'll do an internal mapping in Power BI. Okay, so you can see there is a new table, so which is blank. So we need to bring in the order ID to this table because it's a blank table, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll do an update. So I'll be inserting the order ID and passing null as a comment from order details. So if I run this, execute. So now let's do a top records and see what we have here. Now, if you notice here, we have the new table with the order detail comments which are null. So we will use this particular table in our form and then try to update these comments. So the user should be able to update these comments, and then later we can use this table and model it in Power BI to do our calculation or build visualization. So now let's go to the Power App. So now we are in the Power App. So what I'll do is I don't need this table here. So I'll just delete this screen too. I'll remove this for now. Click on delete. Okay. And then I'll go back to the data and then I will add the table which I just created. This time I'll be selecting the order detail comments because this is where I need to update the comments. So I'll select order details comments and click on connect. Just click on connect. So now if I click on the tree view, I should be able to, this is the screen again. So I'll go back here and then insert a new screen and I'll select a new form. So this is the screen 3. And now when I click on the edit form, I should get an option in the properties to select the data source. So I'll select the data source which I just created. So I have selected the order details comments here, and then here fields, I'll click on edit fields. So here I'll select add field, and then I need the order ID and the comments. Click on add. This time, if you notice here, I am able to see the control type edit text. In the earlier version, I was able to see only view text because it did not fulfill the condition that is required to edit a field or a column. So now we are good with this. So we can order ID and comments here. I can just give a title here. I'll just give I'll say demo update comments. And then again, we can resize this a bit. So I'll make this slightly bigger and drag this. And here we can select mode single line. I'll select multi-line. Okay. Now let's make few more changes to the cosmetics and navigation. So moving to the screen one in the gallery. So let's add a title here. So insert a label should work. So I'll say add your comments. And then here, this little icon, the navigation next arrow button should navigate to screen 3. So when a user selects a particular order ID and then clicks on this little icon that is arrow, it should navigate to the screen 3. And then here, the screen 3 edit form should get the data from the item that is being selected in the gallery 1. So what we should do is click on the item here, and then here we need to use a function lookup the table is order detail comments, and the condition here is order ID equal to what is selected in gallery 1. Gallery 1 dot order ID. Okay, so the screen 3 gets the data from gallery 1, what is selected. And then let's make a few more changes to the navigation. So if someone clicks on cancel, it should navigate back to screen 1. And similarly, if someone clicks OK or correct, then again it should navigate back to screen 1. So I hope this is clear. So basically, the screen 1 gets the data from what is selected in Power BI, and then which is then transferred to screen 3 in the form that is using this function, which we just created here. That is, okay, not here, the edit form. The item is equal to, that is lookup order detail comments order ID, gets the value from what is selected in gallery 1. And then here, we just added the navigation to go back to the screen 1, and again here as well. So once we are done with this, so we can simply save this file and then publish. Once the app is ready, saved and published, I'll go back to the Power BI and import the data from the table which just created, that is order detail comments. Here is the data which I just imported. As you can see here, we have ID, order ID, and comments. The comment is blank because we haven't added anything yet. So if you see the relationship, we have one-to-one relationship between order ID from order details table with the order details comments table. And now here, what I'm going to do is just click on this visual, and then I'll remove this order details comments and bring in the new comments from the order details table. Still, it will show as empty. Now, as the next step, what we need to do is select an app which we just created. In this case, we'll be selecting the demo app. Before we do that, I have to make some correction in the app because I noticed that there was an issue with the navigation. So I'm going to show you what changes we need to make. Here's the Power App, and if you notice here, I've already corrected this navigation. So under Gallery, the next arrow button, There was a error, that is we have selected parent, and then after that we had put navigate screen 3. I have removed the parent and then now directly going to the navigate screen 3. So this was the correction. So now heading back to the Power BI. So we are back in the Power BI and let's do some testing. So what I'll do is let me scroll this a bit. So I will remove this app and then add a new app. So I'll tell you why. So I'll bring this here and then I will select order ID to the data fields here. And now, as you can see, now it's asking me to choose an app. So I'll pick the app which we just created, that is demo. Once I add the demo app, I get this option. So it says almost done. Save your app in Power BI App Studio to finalize the data connection. I'll just click on skip for now. And there is some more information here. I'll close this for now. And then let me select this. So this is the app which we created, right? So I'll click on, let me select something here. So I will select the order ID 007, so which is failed. So now let me click on this view item details. So as you can see here, it's opening up a new window. Here, let me try to add some comments. I will just put this order failed because the bank gateway issue. Okay, so I'll just click on this right mark and submit item. Okay, so now let's see. So ideally, this particular comment will now appear in the table, that is order details comment. So let's check if this has worked or not. So I'll just simply right click and refresh data. Let's give it a couple of seconds and see if it's coming here. If it was a live, then obviously it would have appeared. So if you notice here, so the item which we just entered is appearing in our data. So if you see here, if I go back to the data set here, you see this is the one which we just created. This order failed because of bank gateway issue. Let's try one more. Okay, abandoned. Okay, so let me click on this. View item details. So okay, let me add a comment here. The customer abandoned product and placed a new order. Okay, I think I have limited the characters only for like 50. That's why it's not coming up. And placed. Okay, I'll just enter the customer abandoned the product. Let's check it out. Click on submit item. Okay. And now, if you notice here, it's still not appearing. Let me refresh this data. And it's appearing here. So if you see here, the comment which we just added, the customer abandoned, and we can check here. So this is directly connected to the model, that is our SQL Server order details comments. So now if I open the management studio and do a refresh, I should be able to see these comments. And simply we can publish this to Power BI Workspace. And again, if you're publishing to Workspace, please make sure you have a gateway, working gateway connection so that it gets updated. This is how we can use the Power Apps to write back to SQL Server in Power BI. I hope this video was helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, please drop me a note in the comment section and I'm going to revert back to you. And thanks for watching.